Three people were executed in Pennsylvania. Keith William Zettelmoyer, May 2, 1995. Keith William Zettelmoyer, an American who was convicted of murder and executed in Pennsylvania on May 2, 1995, killed his friend Charles DeVetzko in 1980. Since the capital penalty was reintroduced in the U.S. in 1976, he became the first person to be executed in Pennsylvania. On June 4, 1955, Zettelmoyer was born in Aberdeen, Maryland. With 4 sisters, he was the eldest of 5 children. He made an unsuccessful attempt to enlist in the army when he was younger. After that, he held a number of occupations, such as maintenance worker, photographer, and custodian. On October 13, 1980, 2 police officers were on patrol in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, early in the morning in an unmarked vehicle. They heard gunfire emanating from an unlit wooded area nearby that was frequently utilized for rubbish disposal. A 1967 Ford van was parked next to some shrubs on a rural road as they got closer to the location. They gave the order for the source of the noise to come out after hearing rustling sounds coming from the bushes. Zettelmoyer came out of the forest with a flashlight and a weapon. The officers did not buy into his explanation that he had been shooting rodents. After being told to put down the gun, Zettelmoyer was restrained. A search was conducted, and one of the cops discovered the 29-year-old Charles DeVetzko's body. There had been 4 shots in all. It was then revealed that, while in handcuffs, he had been shot twice in the van. After being hauled from the van into the woods, 2 more lethal rounds were fired. It was determined that the large bleeding of the heart caused by the bullets that had pierced it was the cause of death. Zettelmoyer had been DeVetzko's co-worker at a retail establishment, and the 2 were set to testify against each other in an impending robbery trial in Snyder County. Zettelmoyer and Kenneth Kipple, his accomplice, bound a security guard at a Radio Shack near Sunbury in May 1980 in order to steal thousands of dollars worth of electronic equipment. Zettelmoyer had been named as Kipple's partner when he was discovered attempting to sell the equipment. At that point, Zettelmoyer had told DeVetzko about the theft. DeVetzko had intended to testify against him and had gotten in touch with the police. To stop the man from testifying, Zettelmoyer abducted him close to Selinsgrove and took him to Harrisburg, where he was killed. Zettelmoyer was found guilty of first-degree murder on April 24, 1981, and given the death penalty. Following 14 years incarcerated on death row, he dismissed his legal team and gave up on life. He pleaded with the courts to be allowed to pass away, saying that a brain disease was the source of his agony. Zettelmoyer was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder by medical professionals. He was declared insane by attorneys for the Pennsylvania Post-Conviction Defender Organization, despite the fact that 3 psychiatrists had examined him and found him to be sane. DeVetzko's mother believed that Zettelmoyer was not competent to be executed for killing her son because of his mental illness. Governor Tom Ridge, who had made the death penalty a campaign issue, handed down his first 3 death warrants on February 28, 1995. Zettelmoyer was the subject of one of the warrants, and his execution was set for May 2nd. On that day, Zettelmoyer was put to death by lethal injection at State Correctional Institution Rockview. 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, chocolate pudding, and chocolate milk comprised his last meal. He became the first state execution since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976, and the first prisoner executed in Pennsylvania in 33 years. He is still the first of just 3 persons to be put to death in Pennsylvania since the death penalty was restored. Leon Jerome Moser, August 16, 1995. American murderer Leon Jerome Moser was put to death for the 1985 killings of his ex-wife and 2 daughters in Montgomery County. He was the second person to be put to death in Pennsylvania. Moser was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on September 15, 1942. He was the 4th of 5 boys and the son of a farmer. Moser spent 2 years as a student at a Roman Catholic seminary run by the Salvadorian order following his high school graduation. His poor academic performance caused him to leave, and he spent a year working at an elementary school. After that, he enlisted in the Army and got excellent performance ratings. While serving at Fort Dix in New Jersey, he met Linda, the woman who would become his wife. The wedding took place on April 26, 1969. September 1984 saw the divorce of Leon and Linda. He was a former seminarian and veteran of the Vietnam War. Moser went to St. James Episcopal Church in Evansburg, Lower Providence Township, Pennsylvania, for Palm Sunday services on March 31, 1985. He was going to meet his two daughters, Donna and Joanne Moser, as well as his ex-wife, Linda Moser. Linda's parents claimed that her husband had physically assaulted her multiple times. After the service, the girls were to spend the afternoon with their father. The four of them headed outside to Leon's car following the service. Leon requested permission from Linda to bring his girls back to see his parents in Wisconsin. When Linda refused, there was a fight. Donna stayed out in front of Leon's car as Joanne climbed into the back seat. Leon proceeded to the back of his car and extracted a bolt-action rifle while Linda was making her way back towards the church. Pulling the trigger, he aimed the gun at Joanne's back of the head. Leon turned and shot Linda in the chest, killing her as she screamed and turned to face him. He then aimed his gun at Donna, hitting her in the head. Leon positioned the rifle at his side and shot into the air following the shootings. He collapsed to the ground and stayed there till the cops came. Joanne and Linda were declared dead at the scene, and Donna passed away while being transported to Suburban Hospital in Norristown. Moser had previously used violence against Linda. He had threatened to kill her and put a knife to her throat back in March 1984. In the past, he had also choked her. Moser was receiving depression treatment at a psychiatric facility in addition to having recently lost his work as a janitor prior to the shootings. On January 24, 1986, Moser entered a guilty plea to the murder charges and the weapon charge. He was given the death penalty. Rejecting every appeal, he did not resist being executed. He in fact stated that all he wanted was to die as soon as possible. Governor Tom Ridge signed the execution warrants of Moser and 3 other death row convicts in Pennsylvania on June 1, 1995. The date for Moser's execution was August 15. On August 7, Mumia Abu Jamal, a fellow death row convict who was supposed to be executed 2 days after Moser, was granted a stay of execution. After the visit, Abu Jamal and his allies asked Moser to fight for his own life and pushed him to do so. In the end, Moser turned down their pleas. On August 16, 1995, Moser was put to death by lethal injection at State Correctional Institution Rockview. He did not have any final words. 2 slices of pizza, cold cuts, pasta salad, frosted cupcake, and Coca-Cola were his last meal. Gary Michael Heidnik, July 6, 1999. American serial killer and murderer Gary Michael Heidnik abducted, abused, and essayed 6 women in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, killing 2 of them while imprisoning them in a trench he dug out on his own in his basement floor. He was given a death sentence and put to death by lethal injection in July of 1999. He is the last person to be put to death in the state at this time. The character of James Buffalo Bill Gump in The Silence of the Lambs was partially inspired by Heidnik. On November 22, 1943, Gary Heidnik was born in the Cleveland neighborhood of Eastlake, Ohio, to Michael and Ellen Heidnik. Terry was his younger brother. The Heidnik children were nurtured by their mother for 4 years following their parents' divorce in 1946, and then they were given over to their father and his new wife. Heidnik would subsequently allege that his father had mistreated him emotionally. He claimed that his father would humiliate him by making him hang his soiled sheets from his bedroom window in plain sight of their neighbors because he had a long-standing problem with bedwetting. Heidnik's father refuted the claims of mistreatment following his son's apprehension. Heidnik avoided eye contact and did not engage with other students at school. Gary screamed at a well-meaning new female student, telling her she wasn't worthy enough to talk to him when she asked him if he did his homework. Heidnik and Terry used to say that Heidnik's strange head shape came from when Heidnik was younger and fell off a tree. Despite this, Heidnik tested with an IQ of 148 and did well academically. Heidnik, then 14 years old, enrolled in the 2-year program at the Staunton Military Academy in Staunton, Virginia, with his father's assistance, but he left before he could graduate. At the age of 17, he enlisted in the United States Army, following another stint in public high school. Heidnik spent 13 months as an Army soldier. Upon completing basic training, his drill sergeant gave him an excellent grade. He was turned down for a number of specialized jobs, including military police. He was dispatched to San Antonio, Texas for medical training, where he performed admirably. He was sent from San Antonio to the 46th Army Surgical Hospital in Landstuhl, West Germany, though, so his time there was brief. He obtained his GED a few weeks after receiving his new posting in Germany. Heidnik started experiencing severe headaches, nausea, dizziness, and blurred vision in August 1962. He was prescribed trifluoperazine by a hospital neurologist who also diagnosed him with gastroenteritis and observed that he exhibited signs of mental instability. After being moved to a military hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in October 1962, Heidnik was given an honorable release from the military after receiving a diagnosis of schizoid personality disorder. Heidnik became a licensed practical nurse and enrolled in the University of Pennsylvania shortly after his discharge, but he left after just one semester. He was dismissed from his position at a Coatesville Veterans Administration facility due to his unprofessional conduct and low attendance. Heidnik spent time in and out of mental facilities between August 1962 and his arrest in March 1987. He made at least 13 attempts at suicide. His mother drank mercuric chloride to end her life in 1970 after being told she had bone cancer and was also suffering from alcoholism. Terry, his brother, made several attempts at suicide and also spent time in mental hospitals. Heidnik founded the United Church of the Ministers of God in October 1971, but at first there were just 5 members. He opened a Merrill Lynch account in 1975 using the name of the church. $1,500 was the initial deposit. In the end, Heidnik accumulated more than $500,000, which was worth more than $2.7 million in 2023. The United Church of the Ministers of God was a wealthy and lavish organization by 1986. Heidnik met Betty Disto, his future wife, through a matrimonial service. The two had a 2-year postal correspondence before he proposed to her. In September 1985, Disto came from the Philippines, and on October 3rd she married Heidnik in Maryland. She caught him in bed with 3 other women, and things quickly went south in their marriage. Over the short time of their marriage, Heidnik made his wife watch from the sidelines as he had relations with other women. Heidnik was accused by Disto with assaulting and essaying her on multiple occasions. She was able to leave Heidnik in January 1986 with the assistance of the Filipino community in Philadelphia. Heidnik was not aware Disto became pregnant during their brief marriage until 1987 when his ex-wife asked for child support payments. She gave birth to a son on September 15, 1986, naming him Jesse John Disto. Heidnik had another son, Gary Jr., with Gail Linko. Soon after his birth, the child was placed in foster care. With an illiterate and mentally challenged woman named Anjanette Davidson, Heidnik produced a 3rd child. On March 16, 1978, their daughter Maxine Davidson was born and was placed in foster care right away. Heidnik was taken into custody soon after Maxine was born for the abduction and essay of Anjanette's sister Alberta, who was residing at a Penn Township facility for the mentally ill. Heidnik was accused of aggravated assault and carrying an unauthorized handgun in 1976 after he shot and slightly injured the renter of a home he was offering for rent. Heidnik took his then-girlfriend and Jeanette Davidson's sister, Alberta Davidson, out on a day release from the Harrisburg State Hospital in 1978 and locked her in a storage room in his basement. Upon being discovered and brought back to the medical facility, an investigation disclosed that she had experienced SA and she also had gonorrhea. Heidnik was taken into custody, accused of kidnapping, rape, false imprisonment, illegal restraint, involuntary deviant sexual relations, and interference with the custody of a committed person. He was found guilty on all counts. After the initial conviction was reversed on appeal, Heidnik was imprisoned for 3 years in mental facilities before being released in April 1983 and placed under the care of a state-approved mental health program. Heidnik was arrested once more and accused with assault, indecent assault, spousal rape, and involuntary deviant sexual relations when his wife left him in 1986. Heidnik kidnapped Josefina Rivera, a 25-year-old woman, on November 25, 1986. He had abducted 4 more women by January 1987, and he was holding them captive in a pit in his home's basement. The captives endured beatings, torture, and rape. Sandra Lindsay, 24, was one of the women who perished from a mixture of malnutrition, torture, and an untreated fever. Heidnik chopped her body, but he couldn't dispose of the arms and legs, so he labeled them dog food and put them in the freezer. He boiled her skull in a pot on the stove and baked her ribs. When Heidnik's neighbors complained about a sickening smell coming from his house, police officers went to check what was happening, but he claimed he was just cooking roast, fell asleep, and it burned. That's where the smell was coming from. According to multiple accounts, Heidnik mashed up Lindsay's body, combined it with dog food, and served it to his other victims. Chuck Peruto, his defense lawyer, stated that they did not discover any proof of this after looking through his kitchen's appliances, including a Cuisinart. Peruto claimed that Heidnik concocted the tale to bolster the claim of insanity. Heidnik tortured people with electric shocks. 3 of his cuffed hostages were once forced into a pit by him. After giving the order for Rivera and another lady to fill the hole with water, Heidnik made Rivera assist him in applying electricity to the woman's chains using a stripped extension cord. Deborah Dudley, 23, died from electrocution, and Heidnik disposed of her body in New Jersey's Pine Barrens. Heidnik abducted Jacqueline Askins on January 18, 1987. Askins, the youngest of the 6 victims, was only 18 when she was kidnapped. She recalled that Heidnik had stabbed the victims in the ears with a screwdriver after wrapping duct tape around their lips in a special report titled Gary Heidnik's House of Horrors, 30 years later, that aired on May 5, 2018. Agnes Adams, 24, was kidnapped by Heidnik and Rivera on March 23, 1987. Rivera persuaded Heidnik to grant her a temporary leave of absence the following day so that she could see her family. After taking her to a patrol station, he promised to wait for her there. She opted to contact the police instead of confronting Heidnik after walking to her boyfriend's residence. Reacting officers went to the gas station and took Heidnik into custody after noticing that she was chafing from the chains on her leg. Cyril Brown, who was supposedly his best friend, was also taken into custody. In exchange for his testimony against Heidnik, Brown was granted $50,000 bond and was freed. Heidnik stated before his arraignment that the women were already living in the house when he moved in. Charles Peruto Jr. represented Heidnik during the trial and made an effort to establish Heidnik's legal insanity. Charles Gallagher III, the prosecutor, successfully refuted Heidnik's claim of insanity. He was able to effectively accumulate about $550,000 through his brokerage account, which was used to demonstrate that he was a wise investor and not crazy at all. Heidnik's mental competency was further demonstrated by testimony provided by Robert Kirkpatrick, his Merrill Lynch financial advisor. Heidnik was described by Kirkpatrick as an astute investor who knew exactly what he was doing. Heidnik was found guilty on July 1, 1988 of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 6 counts of abduction, 5 counts of SA, 4 acts of severe assault, and 2 offenses of having sex with a deviant person without consent. He was imprisoned at Pittsburgh State Correctional Institution after receiving a death sentence. He tried to end his life by overdosing on prescribed Thorazine in January 1989. Heidnik's ex-wife, Betty Disto, and daughter, Maxine Davidson White, filed a lawsuit in 1997 in federal court in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, requesting a stay of execution on the grounds that Heidnik was not mentally competent to be put to death. On July 3, 1999, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania released its final verdict, paving the way for Heidnik's execution following 2 years of legal processes in many courts. 2 slices of cheese pizza and black coffee were Heidnik's last meal. On July 6, 1999, he was put to death by lethal injection at the State Correctional Institution Rockview in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. His remains were cremated. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel,